This is an amazing story, okay? It really is. Welcome to the show. This is the kind of show you really want to call someone and say, look, you got to watch Armstrong. It's just a really heart-wrenching story here. You know, we always talk about the issue of abortion, and we always try to find 3 areas where there should be exceptions to an abortion, and there are always incest, rape, and the mother's life is in danger. You know, it's one thing to talk about someone being raped, and certainly you can understand why someone would not want to go through the full pregnancy of a child they did not want, and the child came about in such a violent way. You ever wonder whatever becomes of the child of a rape victim, how their life goes on, what really happens? Well, you're about to find out today, because our guest today was conceived through a violent rape. In fact, his mother was raped at gunpoint. I'm not here to tell you the story. I'm just preparing you for it, because it happens. It shouldn't happen, but sometimes we need to put a face to these things that we read about and hear about it, but we really don't know anyone. Sid, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
No, man. Thank you for really coming on to tell your story. We're not here to sensationalize. We're not here to exploit. We're here because we really want to learn and educate people, because, you know, it still exists. But tell our audience your story.
Well, my name is Sidney Harrison, and I am a product of my birth mother being raped at gunpoint. It was 1974. I was born 2 months premature, and I weighed 2 pounds 1 ounce. I had gangrene in my intestines. I had a herniated bowel, needed a blood transfusion, and my nervous system was severely hampered. I had a 10% chance of living, the doctors gave me. And I was a product of a young child at the age of 15, which was my birth mother, coming from a broken home at the time. And she was living basically on the streets, and she was raped while she was hitchhiking at gunpoint, beaten up and thrown out of a car.
How soon did you learn about what happened surrounding conception and your birth? Was it much later in life?
It was much later in life.
Really,
yes.
much later.
Yes.
So you didn't know?
Yeah, I did not know for 32 years.
You did not know. Listen to this. Sid did not know for 32 years that he was conceived in a violent rape. And tell our audience, why didn't you know? And talk about your wonderful family.
Yes.
And what changed where you recognized that that you wanted to know something about your biological mother.
Well, let me get into this first and foremost. I look at my story as a terrific love story. I look at it as love can, transform hatred into peace and harmony. When love is shown, it solidifies and fortifies relationships.
Now, what is the love story?
The love story was I was adopted.
Oh, thank you.
And my parents fell in love with a young baby that fought for his life. And one of the reasons why my parents said they were drawn to me through that foster care time was because my will to survive. That they said, this guy is a fighter, this baby is a fighter, and we need to make sure that we're there to pick up the pieces of this child's broken heart and mold it back together. And that's what gave me a vision for my dreams in life.
So, why after 32 years?
Did I look for my birth mother?
Yes. But you always knew you were adopted.
Yes.
But why after 32 years?
Well,
and you must tell the story about what happened when you contacted.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you must get into that.
The reason why I look for her is because, just like anything, growing up you know, from an adopted family. I had 2 brothers and 1 sister. I felt that it was important that I found out more or less about my medical history. I wanted to know that. I have a 15-year-old son, so there's some questions I couldn't answer about his medical history. I also felt that it was very important to find out about what happened. What is the story? You know, somebody that goes through something like that, there's got to be a story. And I was very intrigued to find that out. But through those adolescent years, I suffered from, you know, which was an insecurity of mine at the time, was I suffered from abandonment. You know, I wanted to know why these things happen. And, you know, is she still alive? You know, do I have any brothers and sisters? And, you know, through that time, what I realized was that the person that I am is the person that my parents raised me to be, which was very important. But when God blessed me to have the opportunity to meet my birth mother.
Tell us what transpired with your meeting how did you begin the process?
Well, it was actually a 12-year process. And I did some research of...
It took you 12 years?
Yeah, 12 years. Oh. I've searched through old phone books all the way back to 1974.
I want you to tell that story.
Okay.
In the next segment.
Okay.
I know I'm whetting the appetite of the audience, and you know we do that. But this story, which I've heard because we've had you on a syndicated radio show, I could not get it out of my head. Okay. I could not. You know, we interview a lot of people.
Okay.
You figure you've heard it all. But I just happened to see you recently at Russ Parr's movie premiere.
Yes.
I didn't walk up to you. And I could not approach you.
Right.
I just did not know how.
Okay.
I just did not, and I felt bad.
Okay.
And then I realized that I was going to have you on the TV, but I couldn't. I saw you, you didn't recognize me, but you didn't even know I was in the room. Right. But I just could not approach you. And I asked myself, why? Even it's your story, I just said, my God, that guy's story.
Yeah.
You'll hear the rest of the story when we return.
Thank you so much.
Join our community by following Armstrong on all of your favorite social networking sites. On Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to text Army 7 to 80672 for more info and updates on Armstrong Williams.
Just imagine your mother. Doesn't matter whether you're 15 or 10, but when you become a child, it's still your mother. Imagine your mother just violently raped in that way, left her home, living on the streets, and then here's her son, the product of that, 32 years later. Obviously you felt abandonment. Obviously you wanted to know who your mother was. Obviously. I mean, I could have never had any peace unless I knew who my mother was, because it sort of closes a lot of issues for you. It brings closure. And then you wanted to know why. But talk about the 12 years, the process, and the moment, the story you told of meeting her.
I tell you, through those 12-year process, as a young man at the age of 20, just having a child myself, okay, I'm a young father. My son is 15 now. But I look at it like it was a rough time because I was still searching for my place as a man in this world. And I still had a lot of unanswered questions that were going on. So I thought the best way to solve that was to look for her. So I went through old phone books for the last 20 years. I was able, just before 9/11, I had a birth name. It was Jerome Earhart. And I went to Children's Hospital and asked for my medical records, and I showed them that I was Sidney Harrison, but this is the date I was born. They were able to give me those medical records. So from that, there was an address on there. It was 3639 Martin Luther King Avenue, Southeast Washington, D.C. And I went to that address, and it was a building that was turned into an apartment building. At one point, I guess it was a house or something. But so I pulled up the tax records on that, and then I pulled up the address so I could try to get the phone number. That didn't work out. So then I went, tried to do a name search because I found out her name was Jody, and that didn't work. And so I was really getting railroaded, you know, didn't look good for me trying to find certain information out. But I was determined, and I ended up trying to go through DC Social Services as well to try to open up the case. They opened up the case, they lifted the seal, they started doing some research, and from an old tax record that they found from an address of 1974 in Pennsylvania, they called that. It ended up my grandmother, my birth grandmother, still knew they sold the property to someone, but those people still had contact with my birth grandmother, and they said that they would relay the information to my birth grandmother, and then from that point, my birth grandmother got in touch with my birth mother, and you know, translated the information to her, and there we go. And I'll never forget it. I was in a Jiffy Lube getting an oil change, and my brother called me up and said, you know, Sidney, got some great news. One of your social workers would like to speak with you. That was, you know, investigating your case, and they couldn't get in touch with you. So I picked up the phone and called her, and she said, "We found your birth mother." I will never.
What year was this?
This was back in 2005.
So they found your birth mother.
Yeah.
You set up the meeting to meet.
Yes.
How did you set it up? What was the arrangement?
You know,